What's going on, guys? This is Jimmy.
Hey, this is Rachel.
Thank you guys so much for joining us on Relationship Real Talk. It's another Sunday. Boy, it seems like the week just flies by, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. It is already Sunday, but thank God for Labor Day. How many of y'all are going to labor on Labor Day?
Oh, I
I'd
will.
like
I will be laboring on Labor Day.
I'd like to not labor, but there's some things I got to do, but I'm going to try to relax in between.
Mm.
We're so glad you guys could join us. Angela, Sean, thank you so much for joining us today on Relationship Real Talk. Y'all forgive me if I sound a little exhausted because I am. This this new shift in education has taken a toll, but I'm pushing through one day at a time. One day at a time. All right, what we got to talk about today? Insanity. Crazy cycles. Crazy cycles. Listen, we want you to just take a moment and share. Some of you have already commented. We would love for you to think about at least 3 people who you know either might be on a crazy cycle, headed towards the crazy cycle, just got out of a crazy cycle and don't want to get back in. A lot of people been on that crazy cycle. My name is Rachel. I've been on the crazy cycle
Just sound like you
before.
AA meeting.
Well, that's what it feels like sometimes. And so we just ask you to share with some people that you know could benefit from this conversation.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one.
All
Did
right.
you see
We
that
see
fruit
we
fly?
have our fruit fly that's part of our family. Every time we come to do the show, he
Oh
comes
my
and,
goodness.
and annoys us. Our dog is laying here. He thinks every time we do the show, he has to get in position as well.
Yes.
So he's the unspoken member of this team that just stays here and I guess protects as dogs do. But yes, with that being said, you rep your city if you want to rep your city. If you're in a different city because you're vacationing, of course, you are social distancing, you are practicing safety measures, you have your mask on and things of that nature. Go ahead and post where you are watching or listening to us from. Did you have anything to say?
Nope.
You know why? Because you missed your cue at the beginning when you were supposed to kind of say some of
Well,
those
I mean,
things.
you didn't stop, so I just figured
I
we just
didn't
keep
want
on
any
going.
I didn't want any dead space, but when I saw you, you looked like it was on me. I said, let me go on and jump right in. But the question is, does your partner do things that drive you absolutely insane? That is a rhetorical question because I think most people could say yes to that, right? We all have behaviors that grate our partner's nerves. It makes you feel like you're going crazy and you are on the crazy cycle. Now, let me just say this in sensitivity to people who do have psychological issues. This is not to say that we are poking fun of or trying to make light of people who actually do deal with those issues. But we're talking about within a marriage. Sometimes when you get on this cycle, it just feels like you're going crazy and you're doing the same thing over and over again and you start to feel like you're in survival mode. So as a result, she doesn't feel loved, he doesn't feel respected. The question is, how do you get off that crazy cycle to keep from negatively reacting to one another?
Right.
That is the question. Now, if I truly had, one solid proof answer, I'd probably be a millionaire right now. But we can at least give you some tips to think about as you navigate those waters within your relationship. All right. So, what I would love to do, baby, if you can scroll up, I want to tell them about, of course, we've kind of been playing games at the beginning, interacting in such a way, and then kind of segueing you into what we're going to talk about. I'll talk about the scriptures and things that this is based on in just a minute. But I want to start this off with a game called Who's More Likely to? And the reason why I chose this particular game is some of the very things that I'm going to ask questions about in this game are things that might start to drive your partner insane about you and cause you both to get on that crazy cycle. All right. So here's how it's going to work. Both Jimmy and I have cards labeled with my name, his name, and a blank card. And I think we're going to have to hold them up really good so that they can see it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
right there. It looks like y'all can see it. All right. And this is a blank one. And then, of course, the one with my name on it. And the way this will work is when I ask who's more likely to, we will each. Now, he hasn't seen these questions. Okay. And so um, I'm going to need you to keep your eyes off of this side
Oh wow.
of the
I am not
stage
even
here.
looking at your.
I just saw your head turn this
I
way.
turned to look at you.
No, I don't recall that. I just recall the eyes in this direction.
There
You don't
go.
need to look at them. I think
Lord.
we already know based on the games we've played in the past
Whenever there's a game, here she
who needs to follow the instructions. All right, but there is a rhyme or reason to these games that we play, not just for the sake of playing games, but to kind of bring out something more important. And so if we think it's me, well, he'll hold up my name. If I think it's me, I'll hold up my name. If I think it's him, I hold up his name. If I think it's the both of us, I'll hold up both cards. If I think it's none of us, I'll hold up the blank card. All right? And same thing with him. All right, you understand the rules of this game? All right, everybody saw that. I have witnesses that are watching, so you guys help me out. You know you got to hold it down from your end as I'm trying to hold it down from this end and make sure everybody follows the rules. All right, so with that being said, first question. Who's more likely to start a new venture? Who's more likely to start a new venture? All right, we both said Jimmy. All right, we got that one. So we're 1 for 1 there. All right. Question number 2. Who's more likely to help a friend in need? And I'm not going to look at what he pulls. He's not looking at what I pull. Who's more likely to help a friend in need? When you're ready, I'm ready. Wow. All right. I put both of our names there. I guess my husband thinks I'm not trying to help people more than him. I don't know. But that is that was our answers there. He felt like it was him. And I felt like it was the both of us because we've both been in situations where we've had to come to the other about helping a friend. All right. Number 3. I haven't asked the next question. That was
for the previous one.
So what happened?
I forgot to put your name up.
So what made you put it up?
Because I do remember.
Okay, so let's go back. Let's back up. Let's back up for a second. As we're playing this game, let's think before we put the cards up. There's no rush. It's not timed. Let's think about what we're doing.
Thank you very much.
All right, question number 3. Who's more likely to be a backseat driver? And that backseat can be inserted with passenger seat. Who's more likely to be a backseat driver? This would be my husband. I don't know how I made it the first 41 years without him, but he loves to, hey, what's up, guys? What's up? And you guys can vote too. I'm so glad I see Michelle's voting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you know us or you think you know us, y'all can vote as we go along too. What's up, Carla? But yes,
what's up, sis?
The backseat driver thing, I think, I don't think it's being a backseat driver when, I have a Hyundai.
Rachel, why you gotta explain?
And if there is a Toyota in front of us, we're about to become a Toyonde because we're about to run into the back of the car in front of us. I don't think that's being a backseat driver. But I do think being a backseat driver is telling somebody where to turn, why are you in this lane, bear right. All these things are so critical when you're talking about who really is the backseat driver, but we'll leave it at that. All right, number 4. Who's more likely to have the TV on while the other is trying to sleep? Who's more likely to have the TV on while the other is trying to sleep? Wow. Do y'all notice a pattern here? That somebody is waiting for someone else to vote?
I'm not
before you put up Rachel first.
Yeah, because you're most likely to do it first.
And then you put up Jimmy. That's a lie. When you don't have to go to work, you will be up and I'll hear shooting and all kind of foolishness in my ear.
Mm-hmm.
Next question. 5.
Carla said Rachel. Thank you, Carla.
Well, you got to remember that's delayed. So she's probably talking about the other one.
She's talking about this question.
The next one. 5. Who's more likely to wait until the last minute to prepare for something? I'm talking about holistically. I'm not just talking about one thing. I'm talking about in general. Who's more likely to wait until the last minute to prepare for something? Jimmy Rogers.
What do I wait till the last minute to prepare for?
Anything that you don't deem as super important that you're razor focused on, you're going to wait till the last minute. When we have something to do and I'll be like, babe, are we going to do such and such? I mean, yeah, we're going to do it. Are we going to do, I mean, do you want to start looking at that now? Oh, we're fine. I mean, we can look at it. I am the one, everything. If we're moving, if we're going on vacation, if whatever it is we're doing, I am preparing early.
Do you all see a pattern here? Rachel should be Jesus' little sister because she does everything.
No, I admitted that you just while you trying to be funny, I admitted that that we both have the TV on while the other's trying to sleep.
Okay. Go ahead. Next question.
But those are facts. In general, I make sure that I prepare ahead of time because my anxiety can't handle last minute, and you know that. 6. Who's more likely to talk about an issue longer? Come on, Carla, bring it. Jimmy Rogers. He will talk till Jesus comes. And then be trying to talk while Jesus is trying to explain to us why folk got lost. Jesus, he will try to talk till, the whole 1,000 years is up. All right. Thank you very much for the feedback. Remember, he goes to bed early and you're still up. You're right, Carla, but that's on Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night. He's off on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You don't see that part. Those other 4 nights, he's up. There's a Wild Wild West going on. We got shooting going on, all kind of foolishness. All right. She voted for Jimmy. Yes, very good. Number 7. Who's more likely to get on the other person's nerve first? It's very easy for me to get on his nerves for the slightest things. I was breathing wrong. I blinked wrong.
It's funny that
there was a piece of lint.
Baby, you got to explain all your.
Listen, just because you decide to be quiet during this activity, it's totally up to you, and I receive your quietness. It's a change. It's a change. Sorry, Jimbo. You talk even when your eyes are rolling back and falling asleep. Yes, Carla. Thank you for finally settling that for us. All right. What's the next one? Who's more likely to get revenge when they've been wronged? You ready? So we're doing it at the same time. 1, 2, 3. You ready? All right. Let's go. Are you serious? Jimmy Rogers, if we take a survey of people who know me and who know you, I am not a vengeful person.
Rachel, people don't know you as a wife.
Did nobody say as a wife? It says
you just
it
said
says who's more likely to get revenge when they've been wrong?
And me.
No, you're always the one talking about how you're going to hurt them, what you're going to do, how you're going to do it.
Oh no, I'm gonna get revenge.
Exactly.
I'm not saying I won't.
You know what? If he speaks long enough, the truth comes out. Amen and amen again. All right. Next one. Who's more likely to start an argument? Jimmy Rogers. Very good. And last question. Who's more likely? It's time for the next question.
It's going to be you. Go ahead.
I'll wait. That's why we really can't play. I don't know if we can play games anymore because people don't have the right spirit.
My spirit is
and people don't have the right spirit. I'm not going to call any names, but I know what my spirit was before I started this. And finally, number 10, who's more likely to finish an argument?
Told you it was gonna be you.
He'll start it,
I told you
and
it was
I'll
gonna
finish
be you.
it.
Told you it was gonna be you.
This one's correct. The one before this was not correct. Guys, it's so interesting, and all kind of dialogue can come from this. Playing games such as this, I'm starting to second guess if I want to continue to play games
Why not?
with my husband,
That
because
was fun.
it was fun. She said, that's a hard one. I don't see you guys being vengeful. Oh, Carla, thank you very much. Maybe not, but Jimmy's the type of person, if he feels as if somebody has done something wrong, he's talking about all the stuff in great detail that should be done to them or would be done to them, even though I mentioned jail time. That doesn't seem to matter. But, we're still, we're in the business of praying. So we're going to pray through that. I don't know if you guys enjoy watching us play these games and seeing the results of them, but I'm starting to realize that if we can't be truthful and forthright,
oh my goodness,
what's the sense of playing the games, right? So with that being said, we're so glad you guys could join us in that. We're going to get back to some of those things we mentioned, whether it be starting an argument, ending an argument, getting on each other's nerves, speaking when you don't want that person to speak, not being considerate. All these things could land us on the crazy cycle. Yep. And you're wondering, you might be saying, what exactly do you mean about the crazy cycle? The crazy cycle pretty much has to do with love and respect. Without love, she reacts without respect. Without respect, he reacts without love. Now, when you think about the scripture, we always got to bring it back because we're giving a practical spin to scriptural principles. Ephesians 33 clearly says, however, each one of you also must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. I always wonder, why didn't he tell them both to do both? I think because he knew that we would have, the man would have issues with showing love towards this one woman, and the wife would have issues with showing respect. There is a book, if you guys are not familiar with it, it's called Love and Respect, all right, by Dr. Emerson Eggerichs. His wife kind of, she speaks on here as well. She has some parts of this book. And there's also a workbook with it. And if as you can see, I've tagged a lot of things here because we always need a good reference to go back to reset and recharge. But basically what he was saying was, in all his years, I think 20 plus years of counseling couples, one of the things that always came back was the issue of love and respect. And what he found was men generally did not like to come to counseling because they always felt like it was going to be their fault. And as a result, they were more hesitant to it. And what he realized is men desperately need and want respect at the end of the day, and women desperately want and need love. We desire it.
And let me also piggyback on that, because one of the things that he wanted to articulate through the book was that it's not that men don't want love, but they see love through the lens of respect.
Respect, right.
They all, men, we also want to feel those other things too, but primarily you give us respect, we feel that you actually love us. And then for women, it's not that they don't want to be respected,
right,
but they feel respected through the
form
act
of love, right.
And so I thought that was a very interesting perspective.
Most definitely.
It was definitely something that once I started to even look at it through the lens of what we do and what I do with couples, it's quite clear that that is an accurate assessment.
Yeah, and I think we all struggle with it, and kind of like we touched on it last week when I gave the analogy about being on the boat and having the anchor. That in essence is the crazy cycle. I'm going to hold on to respecting you as the woman. I'm going to hold on to respect, and he's going to hold on to love, and nobody's satisfied, hence the crazy cycle. And you're wondering, how do you get off the crazy cycle? So I have some questions for you guys who are listening. Have you ever been on a crazy cycle before? Let's go ahead and be honest. Some of you have been with us for several months now, that you've been listening and watching us. the best conversations we have are the ones that we have with you.
Right.
And so we would love to hear from you. Have you been on the crazy cycle? A.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have, what led to you both being on that crazy
Mm.
cycle? So we're going to assume if you just go ahead and start dropping what led to you both being on that crazy cycle, that means you've been there before.
Mm-hmm.
If you've been there, if you've never been on the crazy cycle before, number one, God bless you.
Mm.
Number two, can you please drop the secret sauce for the rest of us so
Oh.
that we know how to get off of it, which we'll talk about in just a minute.
You know the funny thing about you saying that the secret sauce,
Mm-hmm.
the secret sauce is going to require action, and that is where the problem lies. You know, a lot of times people can give you the solution. This is all you have to do not to avoid the crazy cycle. But when it's time to deal with the crazy cycle, people don't do what needs to be done in that moment. Thus, you know, we find ourselves dealing with the crazy cycle.
And let's
So,
think about it. When you're on the crazy cycle, you're not even really doing a whole lot of thinking.
mm-hmm,
You're kind of driven by your emotions because of whatever reason that you felt justified to hold on to that respect or hold on to that love. You're not thinking properly.
mm-hmm,
And it's not an excuse, but it's just facts. And so the mere fact that we're calling it the crazy cycle, that's not a place of stability. That's not a place of soundness.
mm-hmm.
That's not a place of let me do what's right for this relationship. Even when I think about even the shirt I have on, shout out to Shannon and Shirley of Marriage Inc. You guys can visit their Facebook and I believe their website, Marriage Inc. We over me. When you're not thinking about we and you're thinking about me,
Mm-hmm.
many times it's easy to stay in the crazy cycle. And let's be honest, guys. Let's be quite honest. What's up, Betty? I'm waiting for some people to drop. A, have you been on the crazy cycle? And B, let's see how transparent you are onto what led you to staying on that crazy cycle when you were on there. But what was I just saying? I was saying when you think about
When you're thinking about me over we.
yeah, when you think about we over me, there are times, and I feel your pain on this. There are times where one person in the relationship feels like, I've been weeing for a while now. I have been making decisions as it relates to we, but I just don't feel like my partner is on the we thing. They're on the me thing. And I'm tired of doing that and sacrificing myself and feeling like I'm getting the short end of the stick. So I'm going to go back to me. And that's when it gets dangerous when both individuals continue to want to self satisfy because they feel like I'm tired of it. I remember one time we did do I don't know if you can recall this, one of our workshops that we did, and that question was asked, not specifically about the crazy cycle, but why was it that they were doing what they were doing?
Mm-hmm.
And that person said, because I'm tired of being the only one that's trying to do what's right when this other person is not.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of took me aback a second because that's real.
Yeah.
That's reality. It may not be the best way to go about it, but when you're in survival mode,
It makes sense.
it makes a lot of sense that we would do that.
Because our flesh kicks in, and that's called our defensive mechanisms. They kick in. But, you know, the one thing that I will say about that, you know, um, the Bible speaks about that in Galatians 6:9. It says, let us not get weary in our well doing.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are going to be times in this life where it just feels like, you know, dog, is it just me that's required to do what's right or do whatever?
Right.
And so God knew that was going to come. So he says, hey, don't get weary in your well doing.
Right.
Because, you know, you do the opposite, now you're going to have to deal with those consequences.
And that's why you got to look at your marriage and your
Mhm.
relationship on a bigger picture. It can't just be about you in that relationship. It really has to be what is your goal? Where are you moving towards? Are you both kingdom bound? Is it something that you're both in it like we don't want to stay in this place? And maybe one of us needs to check both of us for the both of us.
Right. Well,
Carla, yeah, we got some comments here. Were you about to read it?
It says, I was a teenager, so I was still young and learning. But when my brother said, haven't you noticed he passes out every time he wants your attention when someone else has it.
Something clicked at that point
Yeah.
that did it. So what she's saying was, I think she's referring to one of her partners, and so basically, I guess he would pass out and kind of and let me and I don't know if she minds, but not just pass out like she's talking and then then he passes out. I think it's a things kind of get hyped
Mm-hmm.
to the point where he would pass out, and it was every time that somebody else had her attention, and it clicked like, wait a minute, something's wrong with this, and that's pretty deep. And I appreciate you sharing that, Carla, because that is a crazy cycle, and I just remember seeing it, and it's like, wait a minute, how something's not right here. This can't be normal to be. And in a minute, we're going to ask you how you got out of it so you can hold on to that. But thank you for sharing that. The second one was Rochelle Smith Strong. She says, yes, I was starting things without even knowing it. I thought I was being an independent woman, but in my marriage, I had to learn we and to let my husband
be the man that he is.
Be the man that he is. I had to realize I wasn't married to myself. Multiple marriage syndrome. Let me see more of that. Wow, that's powerful. I would love for you to talk about that. It's kind of covering us up. Let me sit up so they can see us.
Well, it's not going to be there
yes.
forever.
Multiple marriage syndrome. That's powerful. I would love for you to talk about that a little bit more, Rochelle, as it relates to the concept of we over me and the multiple marriage syndrome. Carla says, oh, yeah, also when we were on the expressway and chose to try and pass out. Okay, so she's talking about the different episodes that he had as they were in a relationship together. So let me ask you this, and those of you who still are typing, because, you know, we all got some stories to tell, right? And so go ahead and tell us. Feel free to tell us how you got off that cycle. You know, something may have clicked, but just because you know cognitively doesn't mean it's easy for you to do it.
Right.
All right.
Right. And
so,
I think that's all of our challenge. You know, and you know, I know for me, having it in my head, understanding what I see, and being that I have a personal connection to it, doesn't always translate into being able to physically manifest what I know in my head to be, you know, that needs to be done. Because we have to master getting our emotions under control.
Right. This has always been my thing, and I've been on the crazy cycle before, and even in my first marriage. And I just recall I knew I was in it. I just didn't know how to get out of it. Because when you have children, it complicates matters even more. And when I say get out of it, I wasn't always trying to get out of the marriage per se. I really was trying to save it. But, you know, at the end of the day, both people have to be determined to do what it takes to do the work. All right?
Right.
But when you're in it, you know it. You can get to the point where you know it's not right, but you can't see for the forest for the trees, as they say. And I truly believe, for me, it was just a combination of fatigue, mental fatigue, emotional fatigue, my relationship with God, you know, that sustained me. But it was like when he told me it was time, it was time. But two things, I always say, two things have to be in alignment. You have your cognitive processes. That's like knowing how to do, you know, knowing what to do. All right. 1 + 1 = 2. Things that make sense. This person's doing this person's doing that. This person has treated me this way repeatedly. We've sought help. They continue to do what they're going to do. That's the cognitive. The emotional is, I truly love this person. I have been with this person for X amount of years. We've had children together. Despite what has taken place, I genuinely saw myself with this person for the rest of my life. But for me, it hit when my emotions caught up with my cognition. Once I could get my emotions in check, then making decisions was not as hard. But I knew what I needed to do way before I actually did it.
Right.
And that was tough because people from the outside looking in were like, wow, finally. And it's easy to look from the outside and say finally, but when you're in it and you're truly committed for the right reasons, it's not that easy.
And not only that, only you and your significant other know what's invested and know the real soul ties that go on in that particular relationship. So, we have to be mindful that although people are going through the crazy cycle, they still have to go through a personal process to even determine how to get out of the cycle once they've been told.
Right.
Here's the secret sauce to getting out of this crazy cycle,
Mm-hmm.
right? So now, if the secret sauce doesn't feel good in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
or you don't think it's gonna make you feel good to do that thing, you gonna delay.
Right. And I
You're
think
gonna
it's
delay it.
important
Yeah.
what you just said. For those of you, if there are any single people that are watching who've never been married before, you could have been in a relationship before, but it's not always going to feel good.
Right.
You know, you're going to be in situations where it's not going to always feel good. And it's easy to initially want to use your emotions to bail.
Right.
But you have to truly think about and balance and truly balance out the commitments that you both made to one another and realizing, is this thing taking place to shape in our characters,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yours and mine?
Right. Because that's what's happening.
Yeah, what are the character flaws that
Mm-hmm.
need to be worked out? And
That
that's
need to
why,
be acknowledged
and
in a
that's
lot of cases.
right. And that's why when you think about iron sharpening iron, there's a
Mm-hmm.
filing that's going on. And that doesn't feel good. You
It
know, when you
doesn't
think
sound
about,
good.
doesn't
Doesn't
sound
feel
good. Whether
good.
it's an iron, a
It's
knife being
hot.
sharpened,
Yes.
even people file their nails all the time. Your poor nail is screaming. Not really, because they're dead, but just think about
That
that
friction.
process, that
Mm-hmm.
friction. It doesn't feel good, but then the outcome is nice because that knife is sharper. It can cut through almost anything.
Right.
Your nails are nice and manicured and they look nice, but it literally is the work that's taking place with that filing that makes the difference. But many times, the minute we feel it, our big toe, we stick our big toe in there, and you're like, "Oh, that hurts too bad." No, no, that's okay. I'll stay right here. I don't want to go there. Or do we go right in? And I think that's why 50% of marriages, including Christian marriages, end up in divorce.
Right. Well, and you definitely hit the nail on the head. We as human beings, I think we're not as open and honest about ourselves as we should be as it relates to relationships. First of all, when we get it, okay, you can think you know what you need to know about yourself prior to
Mm-hmm.
getting in a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't really figure it out until we get in a relationship.
Right.
What's really wrong with us?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like we don't we don't acknowledge until we get in a relationship, oh yeah, that is not only something is wrong with me, but that's a problem.
And let's be quite honest, we're just now getting to the point in this generation where we're seeing the need for mental health check. Because a lot of times when people go and see someone, it's after they're dealing with some things.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, from the time you were born, for the most part, you're going to the doctor regularly
Mm-hmm.
to hopefully you have what you call wellness checks.
Mm-hmm.
You're not sick, but you're just going in to make sure
Check up.
everything's okay,
Mm-hmm.
check up and
Yeah.
everything. But when it comes to our mental health, a lot of times it's not until you get to a relationship that it exposes the things within you that need to be fixed. So now you're trying to fix it while you're in a relationship.
Well,
And
let's
go
be
ahead.
honest.
Go ahead.
Once you have been diagnosed with a said issue that you
Mm-hmm.
have in your life,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes in most cases the counselor or coach or whatever can
Mm-hmm.
trace it back to its origin.
Mm-hmm.
But then we have this other battle we have to go through,
What's that?
accepting it
Definitely.
and really wanting to own it. Like, okay, most of us will try to deny it that that thing that you just told us exists actually
Right.
exists,
Right. Right.
and that it is a major source in why you and your significant other are struggling. And the reality is that keeps us prolonged in that crazy cycle when we don't want to change.
And that's why I think it's important, if you can do it before you get in a relationship, to kind of know. Like there are some people, you don't have to wait to get in a relationship to realize, and when I say a relationship, a partnership with someone on an intimate level, because you have relationships with your family
Right.
where
They've told
things
you.
where they've told you. But let's say you have anger issues.
Right.
Those anger issues don't just manifest once you get in a relationship.
They
So
were
let's say
already there.
they were already there. But the healthy thing to do would be to go deal with that anger management, because all it's going to do is rear its ugly head. It's going to be a two-headed monster by the time you get married, and then a four-headed monster by the time you have children, because all of those things put stress on a relationship. But Carla, I want to read the things that she's saying, because she's really kind of pouring herself out here as it relates to the crazy cycle that she was on. And she said that here, she says, I would say he would pretend to pass out and create a big show. I also knew then what my mom had already revealed to me became clearer. A lot of things showed itself prior to that: cheating, jobless, breaking things, constant babysitting and arguing for frivolous things, literally no substance. I saw it but chose to ignore it. I was growing and he was still stagnant. It was just time. There was nothing left.
Right.
Wow, that's powerful.
So that helped her make up her mind to get out of that crazy cycle.
Right, and it sounds like she bore a lot of things before she even decided enough was enough. And sometimes, people do go through that. They stay in it a little bit longer because you never know what it's going to take before you realize, you know what? This is not something I deserve. And let me just say this, and I'm talking to the women, I'm talking to the young women, and I tell this to my high schoolers. Be very careful of trying to fix a guy and like feeling like, well, since I have it together. They kind of mix up support with enabling. And what happens is they get into this cycle of they see things, they see some negative behaviors, but because I have it together, I can help him. I am here to save the day. And what ends up happening is they get caught up emotionally. And before you know it, they're in this little vicious cycle that they cannot get out of. And especially, our young girls, they're still growing up. Their brain is not even fully developed yet. And before they know it, they've bit off more than they can chew.
Do you ever see that in men? In your male students?
In my male students,
they trying to
think
be
they
Captain
can
Saver?
fix.
Yeah.
You know what? If I'm being totally honest, I rarely see the guy with the girl trying to save her because she's out there. It's generally the girl is trying to save the guy. What the guys usually do is they sit back and enjoy the fact that the girls are fighting over them. I'm not saying they don't have their own issues they have to deal with, but they truly are kind of like they've become comfortable in being desired by more than one girl. And so if y'all are going to fight over me, fine. This is what my woman is doing for me. She's walking me to class. She's carrying my stuff. She's bringing me something to eat. And this is sidebar, and we'll get back to the conversation. But it literally has become, and when they do this, I check them on it, calling her wifey. Well, you're giving a boyfriend husband privileges, and now he has a distorted sense. He has not truly committed, and he has this distorted sense of what you're there for. So that's a whole nother show in and of itself, just for the young people. I might do that one day for them.
And I actually get a chance, maybe because I'm dealing with older people. I see both. I see the reverse, where we have a guy who tries to be Captain Saver. Like, dude, you can't. That ain't your job to rescue nobody. You know what I'm saying? And and a lot of times, both male and female, we have to realize that some people choose you because they believe you can rescue them. It's not because they are committed to you. They're committed to the rescue. But once they're rescued,
here's what's deep about that rescue piece.
All they want is the benefits.
Here's what's deep about that rescue piece. If you have been chosen, and I'll use the word rescue in air quotes, whatever you want to replace that with, make sure it's God telling you you have something within you that is there to help someone else.
Right.
And when I say make sure it's God, at this point in our lives, when you get in your 30s and 40s, if you're a Christian, You should get to the point where you've developed a relationship with God that you can hear his voice.
Called discernment.
It's called discernment. And the minute, if you don't have that, then you could go in any direction.
Mm-hmm.
The enemy will have you thinking one thing. He'll have you going left and you should be going right. He'll have you going up and you should be going down. And I generally know his voice because it's not always something I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that I'm resistant to, but I can clearly feel that God is impressing me to do it. If you put that on, it might completely cover us. I can just read it if you want me to. Rochelle gave some feedback. We sought counsel and a lot of prayer. Amen. I had to let go of prior marriage situations, realizing that my husband is current. Let me just snap on that. I had to learn how to be a wife and not be a mother to my husband. I had to learn more than I thought I did to help create we. It helps when you can admit that it's you. Amen. My husband has issues too, but I know we had to learn each other past the I do. Thank you, Jimmy and Rachel, for teaching the follow-up process.
Yes.
You know what?
Praise God.
You are giving me goosebumps as I'm reading this because, oh my gosh, I'm almost in tears. Because, first of all, you just poured out your soul to us to kind of really reveal what it's like past the I do. And hopefully people are starting to realize now, if y'all are listening, preparing for the wedding, that's well and fine. You know, people want a wedding. You have the right to have whatever type of wedding that you want. However, please do not forsake the marriage.
Right.
And the work
preparation for
the preparation for the marriage. Because if you had to compare the two as far as preparation was concerned, preparation for the wedding pales in comparison to preparation for the marriage.
Because the wedding only is going to last about an hour.
Right. And you can, and the nostalgia wears off. Yes, Jimmy and I can look back on our photos and be like, oh, this was such an awesome day. And oh, remember how hot it was. And remember how much fun we have. And our family was there. But OMG, when things really get tough, when you're like this and you don't know how to break free from that, you got to be able to move past the I do. And something critical that she said you got to be willing to dig down within. You have to look at you and admit that it's you. I can't admit that it's Jimmy for Jimmy. I can try, but it's not going to help until Jimmy realizes what Jimmy needs to do.
Right.
And he does not need to do that in isolation. Rachel is going to have to go deep and realize, what part am I playing? And I think what's beautiful about that, Rochelle, is it's constantly a delicate balance of you doing the work, I'm doing the work. You doing the work, I'm doing the work. So that one person doesn't feel like they're literally dragging a dead horse up a mountain.
Well, I think once we take the focus off the other person and we can truthfully take ownership of what we're bringing to the table, in a lot of cases we will come to grips with why they are behaving in a lot of cases the way that they are. See, we like to take responsibility only to a certain point. We don't like to say, well, you know what, I did foster that type of behavior. When I was doing A, B, C, and D, that caused that.
Right.
So now, however long I was doing that, now I may have to take that long to do the reverse.
Right.
Because now that's a person that's taking full ownership of their role in the dysfunction or the crazy cycle that was taking place in the relationship, right? But here's how we like to do it. Well, you know, I do know I was doing so-and-so, but Rachel ain't got to keep doing so.
Right.
No, see,
it's easy to go there.
Right, because we're not willing to really take full responsibility. So when I hear someone say, I had to realize it was me, to me that means so much more than it probably means to the average person based on, you know, what I do working with couples. Because that is the hardest thing to get people to acknowledge. Can you see how that was you? Yes. Can you see how that caused A, B, C, D?
Right.
So now when you can see it from that perspective, now your relationship can take new heights because now once you change, by default, those other things are going to change.
Right.
But a lot of times we want that our significant other to act as if those things that we didn't happen, or those things that we do don't happen,
Right.
and behave unnaturally in spite of those things happening.
Right.
And that's
And
so crazy.
and the thing is, one of the ways to get off the crazy cycle is for you
Mm-hmm.
to decide you don't want to be on it anymore.
Exactly.
And what that might mean, and let me just, I always have to throw this in here. We're not talking about extreme cases of abuse and um, um, neglect and abandonment and things where there's some serious things going on and there might need to be a separation for a time,
Right.
or who knows if it's permanent. But we're talking about the day in day out throes
Mm-hmm.
of relationships where you genuinely, say you love each other, but you keep getting on this cycle. And so, as I was saying, you have to decide, I'm going to do what's right, even though this person is not.
Right.
And that right there, that part, for the people in the back, that part, that's a huge swallow. Because I don't know any human being that has an easy time continuing to do the right thing when the other person is not.
I'm glad you used
And
that
and,
word.
and let me say this. I'm not sitting here saying you're doing the right thing and the other person is literally treating you like trash. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, that deep down inside, that person does have goodwill. And if you go into, I want you guys to take some time and read the resources that we attach to this with Dr. Eggerichs. It's so important that you're assuming goodwill, because there are many times I think we can all admit that our spouses have done things and said things that it doesn't feel like they have your goodwill. But in actuality, they do. It's just the adjustments that we have to make individually, and listen to God. When He tells you to make a move, that's the move that you make. But in the meantime, it might take the other person a second to get on board, or shall I say, off the crazy cycle and onto what Dr. Eggerichs calls the energizing cycle, the motivating cycle. What were you gonna say, babe?
Well, no, I was pretty much just agreeing with you on that. There we have to acknowledge um, that sometimes during the course of our relationship, we're going to have issues.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're recognizing that we have issues. There are going to be several positions you're going to be in during the course of your relationship. You're either
Mm-hmm.
going to be the person who played a significant role in why you're in the crazy cycle,
Mm-hmm.
or you're going to have to be the person who has to endure the crazy cycle, even though you may not have been the contributor to it.
Right.
Maybe your significant other just came into the relationship with their own issues that is causing the stress in your
Right.
relationship, right? Um, but either way it goes, we have to be willing to, one, allow God to give us that discernment on which way to move. Even if we were the one contributing to why it's happening, or maybe we were the only one contributing to why we're in that crazy
Right.
cycle.
Right.
We have to learn how to forgive. First of all, forgive yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Then forgive your spouse, because what there have been times where we've hurt each other unknowingly. And once it's brought to your attention, we can say, I didn't mean that all you want, but at the end of the day, your significant other felt some pain, right?
Right.
And sometimes we can dish out some pain that people struggle to recover from.
Right.
And we have to be patient enough, if we actually love them, to
Right.
let them go through that process of healing,
Right.
to, that process of forgiving. Everybody don't forgive as fast as others.
Right.
You
And if
know,
you're the one in the wrong,
right.
you definitely have to be patient, because you've done something that could have possibly even went against the marriage.
Exactly.
As far as
Violated the vows of the marriage.
the marital vows of the marriage. So you can't be like, you still on that.
Right.
You need to get over that.
Right. Right.
And the person who's been hurt has to be on some, I'm hurt, I'm processing this hurt, but I'm trying to move in a positive direction
Right.
of, I can't stay in this place because it's not good for the health of my marriage. See, that's the biggest thing too. Even though you're the one that could have been hurt and on the receiving end, deciding that you're just going to stay in that place is not good for you and it's not good for the marriage.
Right.
So
So
there's
do we have some tips for?
oh, I mean, we definitely do. I mean, and we've kind of thrown some of them out there. And the first one of how to get off the crazy cycle and get onto the energizing cycle, the motivating cycle, is to keep in mind those two things, love and respect. Women, as you talk to your husbands, you know your husbands, you know your partners, you know what he thinks respect looks like. And if you don't, you might want to have a conversation about that. And husbands, men, you know how she feels loved, whether it be through her love languages or different things that she has articulated to you. So love and respect have to be at the top there. And that cycle will continue in a positive manner. The second thing you have to do is assume goodwill. And my husband and I have gone back and forth about this. But if you're deciding to stay married to someone, then that must mean that that person is worthy of still being your partner.
Or your emotions and your cognition hadn't met yet.
Yeah, it hadn't met yet, but you got to assume goodwill, because if you don't, then you're like, you coming for me. Well, you're purposely trying to attack me.
Let's be fair to what your husband was saying about this.
Okay, baby.
I agree with you that initially all of us should assume that I don't think we would marry someone who we didn't feel had our best interests at heart.
That's right.
However,
right,
over a period of time, when the patterns of behavior says that they don't have your goodwill, they don't have your best interests at heart, you almost kind of foolish to keep thinking that.
But see, baby, that's not what the research has proven, and he's done like over 20 years of research.
Okay.
And like I said, I agree with you as it relates to extreme cases of abuse and abandonment and things of that nature, addiction. But when we're talking about you are in the throes of a relationship and you're having ups and downs, you have to assume goodwill from your partner, even though what they are doing. Because as human beings, period, and I don't want to go left on a tangent because I want to continue to give them the tips. But even though as human beings, period, we continue to do things like right now, there are things that you do and say that I could easily take as he doesn't have my best interest at heart. He continues to do this and he knows I don't like this. I could generally think that. Or I can think, nope, I don't like when he says this. I don't like when he does this. But I know he really wants what's best for me. But there are other reasons as to why he continues to do this. And that is the work that we need to put in. Not, he must not have goodwill for me because he keeps doing this. That's not what I'm thinking when I'm looking at you.
That's not what I'm thinking either.
Right. So, and I think that's the point. And that's the point I'm trying to make to the people is the love and respect piece are important. But in order to start loving and respecting, you have to assume that your person means goodwill towards you. All right? Your person, your partner, your husband, your wife. Thirdly, you have to avoid accusatory remarks. Focus on how it made you feel. And the minute I say that, and even when I read it, it almost makes it seem like, here we go with this, rote talk of, babe, you made me feel this way. No, but really, if I'm dealing with you and I say, you're this and you're that, and all you do is this and that and this and that, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that you're going to put up walls because I've just thrown some darts at you, some emotional darts at you, as opposed to here is what you did and how it made me feel. You can't fight how it made me feel. Now, you might be able to fight that, no, I'm not of this, I'm not of that.
Right.
But the conversation can't be start being about the darts that you're throwing and the labels that you're putting on one another.
Because you'll never get
out of it. And I know the devil uses that to drive you further away and to continue to keep you on the crazy cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, you got to actually think about when that person is sharing how they felt based on what you did and how it made them feel. You got to think about what you might have done and make the change. You have to, away from that conversation, away from the heatedness. Let me sit back and think about how this conversation transpired.
Away from our natural instinct to be defensive, away from our natural instinct to deny, away from our natural instinct to deflect. We have to
And
sometimes
project.
and project. We have to sometimes step back and this is again, this is why I use the term there's some recipes for a healthy relationship, and one of the ingredients is maturity. Only mature people can successfully get past the presentation and listen to the message, listen to the heart.
Right.
Because people that's hurting don't always present well.
I agree with
So
you.
so sometimes we have to, and I've just found this over the years doing this, that a person who's not really ready to take responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
they're never listening for the message. They're always listening for that thing
Definitely.
to defend.
But I
You
think
know,
I
and
think the
so
reverse is true too. Go ahead. You can finish your point, and then I'll tell you the
and
reverse.
so and so we have to be mature enough when we're on the receiving end of someone sharing how what we did or said made them feel. We have to get past trying to focus on their presentation
Right.
and listen to their heart, because once we listen for if we're listening for why they're actually even expressing this way, why are they so emotional, why are they so angry, if we're
Right.
listening for that, we may find the solution 10 times faster
Definitely.
than trying to focus on, well, see, you talking to me all disrespectful, and then you just shut down. And so now nobody's needs are being met because now both people have either shut down emotionally
Mm-hmm.
or y'all done engaged into a heated argument that doesn't go anywhere positive.
And let me just tell you something. You can't look at that without looking at the exact other side of that
Of
coin.
course, of course.
It takes a mature person to um, start to listen to when their partner says, the way you're coming at me is not quite right. And it turns me off. It takes a mature person to say, you know what, as upset as I am, I'm going to find the words. And I'm not saying find the words like you're Jesus and it takes Jesus before this person is going to finally listen to what you're saying. I'm words are huge to me. A moment of transparency here.
Mm-hmm.
That has been one of the points of contention for us when we first got married. It has gotten better.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell me if you're right or wrong. But from the time, I don't even know when it started. It could have started with my mom. But the words, there is power. The Bible talks about it. There's life and death in the tongue,
Mm-hmm.
and the things that you say and even how you say it.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't negate the person's responsibility on the receiving end, even if it wasn't said in the right way. Agreed,
Mm-hmm.
100%. But it takes a mature person to be careful of the words that you use, because whoever said sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
They lied.
Clearly, they must have had a genetic disorder in which they feel nothing.
Or they didn't meet the right people.
Or they didn't meet the right people. Because my thing is, if you're going to come to me with something, I'm not saying you can't be upset about something. I'm not saying you can't, there are not times it's heated, but please, 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 if at all possible, make sure your words are words of construction and not destruction.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can have constructive criticism,
Right.
but you can have destructive to the point where what's left of the marriage?
Mm-hmm.
It's broken apart because that person now no longer even feels emotionally safe with you because of the words that you might say. There's some comments out here. I would love to read them.
Let's look at Rochelle. She says, you all need a testimony series. You all made us look at our marriage and ourselves on a whole different level. The Strongs, thank God for your assistance. Bless you both.
Praise God. Praise God. Thank you so much for that. We literally, it is a day in, day out thing that we go through in being obedient to what God would have us to do. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we're humans just like everybody else. We go through stuff, but yet we still got to come before you and thank you for that. We
Amen.
receive it.
Amen.
All right. Carl said, good point, Jimmy. Find out why they're so emotional.
Right.
You know, this thing called marriage and relationships, I mean, it's no joke. And
It is no joke, and it is not for the weak at heart.
at
It is
all.
not for the immature.
It is not those for who just want to test it out and
Right.
see what it
Right.
feels like.
And a lot of people, and this blew my mind because I know it's in scripture where it says it's better to marry than burn.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, uh Let me look. At
It's
the
in
camera.
there.
Let me
It's
look.
in
Let me
there.
look in the camera.
Mm-hmm.
Please don't say I do and get into this covenant just because you want to have sex.
Have mercy.
Okay? Because is not going to end well for those who just got in it because you didn't want to be violating God. Well, let's get married so we can have sex. Marriage is so far beyond sex.
It's so much more than that.
Yeah, so stop making that tragic mistake, getting into this covenant because look, well, we were having premarital sex, and the Bible say it's better to marry than burn.
See, I think the danger in just using that text in isolation
Right.
is forgetting that other things should be in place.
Exactly.
You know, you're in a relationship. You're both seeking God, and you've put the wedding out so far, and you know the challenges that you're having with wanting to be with one another. And you're waiting for certain things to be in place as it relates to, well, I want to wait for this job or wait for this. Or you might need to go ahead and get married as opposed to.
Especially when you know that that's where you all are going
That's
anyway.
where you're going anyway.
Right. But I'm talking
people
about,
use it as
right.
the reason for it. And I've heard this quote once that when sex is good, it's 10% of your marriage, but when it's bad, it's 90%. So basically, sex is not everything. It's a part of, but there's so many more things, as we all know, that go into a marriage. I mean, because think about it. Once it's kind of like you're chasing after that thing. You finally got it, where either you never had it before or it's guilt free. It's like, okay, I got it now. Now what?
Right. Right.
Now
life kicks in.
Life kicks in. You got to have a life.
I don't care how good sex is. It does not trump life.
Yes. And let me just say the scripture. And when I read it, and I think I had read it years before, but just to read it again in context of this crazy cycle and trying to get into this energizing cycle. 1 Corinthians 7:33 and 34 says that the one who is married is concerned about how he may please his wife. Or how she may please her husband. So when you get married, so many people think about your reasons for getting married. If it started off about you and how it makes you feel.
And all you going to receive.
Don't get me wrong. You should get a lot out of it.
Right.
But you got to go into it with thinking, there's somebody else now that you're there to please, and vice versa.
Exactly.
I thought that was just powerful, powerful scripture.
We got some more comments that I definitely want to read. Angela said this: marriage is real work, and we all come with some type of baggage. You are exactly right.
And we have to be willing to unpack it.
And not only that, first of all, acknowledge it. Acknowledge that you have some baggage that is unhealthy for your current relationship, and then be willing to unpack it. And then come up with solutions so you can get past or empty out that baggage and maybe even get rid of the suitcase. You know what I'm saying?
Burn it.
You know what I'm saying?
Listen.
But a lot of times we don't even want to accept or acknowledge that we do have the baggage.
And let me tell you a transparent moment here. It's not until you start unpacking. When you've unpacked one bag, you're like, I have more. Like you're thinking you might just have one bag to unpack.
And you might be like Erykah Badu, bag lady.
Listen, and what you don't realize is it's been weighing you down till you free yourself.
Right.
And I don't care how you try to cover it. When you get into a marital relationship, those things come to the surface. It's like that. I hate to use the this analogy, but you've seen in these movies or a Lifetime movie, somebody commits a crime or murder or something. They throw them in the water. They tie something around their ankle. Next thing you know, a month later, the body's floating at the top.
Right.
That's kind of how it is.
Yeah.
You thought
because
it's never going to come back up.
Right.
We're never going to have to worry about it. And that thing will rear its ugly head. And here's what I truly believe. I believe that God allows circumstances, things like COVID, things like racial injustices. I think he allows those pressures to come into our lives
to reveal
some things
in order for us to acknowledge them and accept them
because we would
make
not
the changes.
Yes, because we would not do it otherwise.
That's right.
We kind of float through. That's why I'm always concerned when people say we never argue, and I'm not saying that. If they've done the work and they've gotten to the point where it's not necessarily an argument, it's whatever they want to call it, a discussion, and they're able to seamlessly weave in and out of it, wonderful.
Gotcha.
So happy for you. Would love to get there one day. But when people say they never have any conflict or anything, somebody's not happy. Somebody's resentful. Somebody is looking at somebody real close while they sleep. I'm just saying, because if you are a human being,
somebody boiling grits
boiling grits, hot water, and thinking about what I should do with it. Let's be honest. Look, this relationship real talk.
Let me read some more comments. It says, Carla said, "So true. I don't think I've really spoken about that crazy cycle on this level for all to see. Thank you, fam. Very therapeutic. Praise God. Praise God." Angela said, "As I get older, I am becoming overly compulsive and expectations change. We must communicate regularly." Okay. All right. Overly compulsive. All right.
I could speak to that. Let me just say this. Sometimes a crazy cycle like the one I had in my first marriage, what it did for me is it made me become overly compulsive about organizing things and wanting things because I felt so much disorder in my life. I had to find places of order. And I was pretty well at that. And that kind of gave me a sense of peace.
Because that's something you could control.
Because that's something I can control.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I recognized it and I dealt with it. I liked order anyway. I liked order before that happened. But I think it went into overdrive because it was something I can control. Right. But now I'm not in that type of a situation anymore. Now, there are times it may feel like we're on a crazy cycle for different reasons. Mm-hmm. But not to the degree where I feel like I have to exit the relationship, but you have to know yourself, and you got to be able to have those conversations with yourself and say, self, why are you manifesting this? Like, why is this happening? And be truthful. Right. Just like Rochelle was talking about, that self-analysis.
So let's do a recap so we can get on out of here, guys. Ways to get off the crazy cycle and on to the energized cycle. The first way is to start using love and respect. For men, start showing love. Women, start showing respect. Number two, assume goodwill. Don't assume off the bat that they mean you good ill will just because
they're not what they're saying is not make you feel
right,
good.
It doesn't make you feel good or whatever. And so assume. Because sometimes, listen, guys, I'm an athlete. I'm an old athlete. I've been in the military.
Did you say an old athlete?
Yeah, I'm old now because I don't play.
He's an old
for
athlete,
teams anymore. I play recreationally, but I mean, listen, I'm used to it. I'm used to hard criticisms. When we sucked, our coach didn't come to us like, well, look here, let me tell you, he yelled at you. You know what I mean? And so.
And that was that type of relationship, too.
But also, too, you couldn't argue because you did it. You see what I'm saying? Like, you did it or didn't do it or whatever the case may be, even in the military. I mean, they were able to speak to us based on our actions and behaviors, and we accepted it, right? Mm-hmm. But when we get married, for some reason, we don't want to accept the stuff that we're doing.
Let me speak to that.
It makes it 10 times more difficult to get through the crazy cycle.
Wait. I got to speak to that. That's important what you just said. We can't just let that ride. You just gave 2 examples in which it is that type of relationship. Mm-hmm. A coach and his players, you expect that yelling, that get it together. What are you doing out there? In the military, the minute you get there for boot camp, there's a programming that takes place. Mm-hmm. You expect that. And some people can handle it, some people can't. In a marriage, things are going to get tough, and you should be able to speak the truth, but you should be able to speak the truth to one another in love. And what that means when I say in love, it doesn't always feel good. Mm-hmm. When people think about love, they think about warm fuzzies.
And it's not always packaged pretty either.
But listen, I'm not even talking about a pretty package. Because like I said, constructive criticism, it can still be criticism, but the relationship is different. The relationship is not coach to player. The relationship is not sergeant to private. The relationship is a side by side. We're walking in this thing together in Christ, our criticism is for the purpose of uplift, and it doesn't always feel good.
And see, that's why I know as a civilian you wouldn't gonna get it.
Because
here's the deal.
Broke down athlete.
They did not say anything to us that wasn't in love and in efforts to make us the best that we could be. But in our relationships, we get to this point where we take on a position like we're grown, and I'm grown. You can't tell me. And so now it's
I'm
like,
not even referring to that. Yeah.
So now you can't be corrected.
Right.
But that same individual will be a master at identifying your issues.
Yeah, but we're not talking about that. In a military situation, they're preparing you for war.
But baby,
in a game,
we're talking about the principle.
Right, the principle. But in a game,
you can't overlook that. We're talking about the
principle. I'm not overlooking it, baby.
The principle of correction and the principle of discipline to take the correction.
Y'all could clearly see.
That's what we're talking about.
Y'all could clearly see who's the one that doesn't choose their words carefully and who's the one that does.
Well, here's the
no, baby, I'm serious, and the people need to know this. I agree with everything you're saying as it relates to needing the correction. I think we're in full agreement on that. All I'm saying is there's more than one way to do that. And my question is always, what is the carnage? At what cost? You want to be able to correct each other in such a way where there's the least amount of damage when you're done. Yeah, we fought that war, but think about how many of those military people come back and their mind ain't right as a result of everything that they've gone through. Or the coach is yelling and screaming at them, we won the game, but I really don't feel good about myself because of the way my coach comes at me. So all I'm saying to you is, and I think the principle of what we're saying is the same. And what I agree with you is we can't go through life in relationships on any level without going through that refining process that requires other people to sometimes check you on your behavior. All I'm saying is, as it relates, there's a responsibility on both ends. On the end of the receiver to get the message, regardless of how it comes across, and on the end of the deliverer to make sure that that message can get across in the best way without having to have as much carnage just in the name of I told the truth.
Yeah, and okay, I'm gonna leave that alone because
Carla says there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Right, and when you come nice and you say it nice and the cat don't want to listen,
that's not what we're talking about.
You know what, Rachel? Do you notice that you always do that?
That's not what we're talking about, baby.
Sweetheart. When you do this, you have to cover all the angles.
Gotcha.
Because let's be clear. People don't. It doesn't matter how you present it to some people when they don't want to change.
Okay.
So you sound like that person that go throw a rock and then once they see who threw the rock and they start throwing back rocks, they want to cry. Why are you hitting me?
No, you're misinterpreting what I'm saying.
No, sweetheart.
Here's the bottom line for me.
Let me finish doing what I was doing.
Let me say my final point on that because you got to say your final point on that. Even in situations where the husband and or the wife are yelling or screaming, it's still not effective. Even if they're saying it harshly, it's still not effective. So saying it harshly is not making it more effectively. Saying it loudly doesn't make it more effective. What makes it more effective is coming from a place of I truly love you, I truly care for you, and this is what it sounds like. It may not sound good to that other person because it may not be something they want to work on. But we do have a responsibility. The Bible talks about it. When you look at Jesus Christ, he was no wimp. He was no punk. But guess what? What he said, when you look at everything he said, there was no fault in it. And sometimes it hit people very hard, but they had to make a change. But many times, as Christians, if we're not careful of how we speak the truth, and we don't speak it in love, it could never be received.
Okay,
And
thank
that's on
you.
that other person's. You're being sarcastic.
Um, number three, or yeah, number three.
Baby, we've said them all.
Avoid. No, I didn't. You stopped me at two.
Baby.
Avoid accusatory remarks, and focus on how it made you feel. And last in the recap was to think about what you might have done and make the necessary changes. I was doing the recap. I did not finish the recap, sweetheart. But thank you for your input. I appreciate that. All right. So, guys, thank you all so much again for joining us on Relationship Real Talk. We look forward to seeing you guys next week. Watch. I know this is Carla.
And y'all pray. Y'all pray.
We know what's more effective, but
For
sometimes she said we know what's more effective, but sometimes it feels good to cuss them out, then ask for forgiveness.
Well, thank you for giving me permission to cuss him out. Y'all pray. Y'all pray for the Rogers family, okay? Because it's going to take some people a little longer to realize you can catch a whole lot more flies with honey than you can with vinegar.
Yep, I agree with. No, Jimmy really do understand it. Speaking in love can look different depending
That's right.
on who.
That's right.
Oh my Lord, Ashley.
I agree.
Ashley Jennings.
I agree.
Ashley Jennings. Ashley, that's all Jimmy was trying to say.
That's not what he was saying, because that's not what he said.
Ashley,
that's not what he said.
Everybody don't. You could be as humble as Jesus. Because think about it, guys.
I thought we were done with it.
There was a time.
I thought we were done with it.
I'm talking to Ashley right now.
Exactly.
I'm talking to Ashley.
Which is why I couldn't let you try to take over me.
Ashley, let me communicate.
Y'all see how this
you.
is? This is
Ashley. Ashley
double.
Actually is Ashley is owning up to.
Why do you get to speak?
You can speak to.
No, you couldn't. You tried to cut me off.
Let me finish first.
Boy, I tell you.
Ashley, I love it because
double standard.
You can speak to people as nicely as they want. They will deflect. They will deny. They will try reverse psychology.
I'm not talking about
that. And
that.
then at some point, you just be like.
But that is not your responsibility, and that's why I said what I said.
Well, we're not talking about responsibility.
But I'm saying I am talking about responsibility, baby. As Christians, we have responsibilities. You can only worry about which side of that you are on at that time. When you are the one getting the criticism, your responsibility is to sift through it, sift away the crap that you don't like, and what is the truth in what they said.
Okay.
I agree with that.
You agree with that?
But there is a responsibility on the person who is giving the constructive criticism.
We both said that.
In love, in whatever way it looks like, that's between you and God.
Yes.
In checking that. But we're not saying the same thing. And don't you be facetious.
Yes.
You guys, y'all have a wonderful day.
What, baby?
I'm done. You're trying to be facetious.
No, baby.
You were saying something different. Every time we bring this up, you talk about this.
But then
people, I'm so glad we can be transparent. As you can see, he speaks when he wants to speak. It is what it is. We're a regular couple just like everybody else. Y'all continue to keep us in prayer, as we will you guys.
Carla, we love you
much.
guys. Ashley, thank you so much for closing this conversation out well. Let's see. Angela, thank you guys so much for being on the show. Rochelle.
Thank you, Carla.
Melanie.
Wait. Let's take the time to read Carla's comment.
Okay, what did Carla
At the end of the day, Rachel, you are absolutely right.
There we go, Carla.
Y'all are funny. Y'all sound like me and my husband.
She absolutely right.
Let me tell you something. This thing, I've said it before. I will say it again. He is my ministry. And God has put him in my life for a reason. There are days I know exactly what it is, and then there are days like today, right now, that I don't know what it is. So with that being said,
I will be one of few
love you. Great convo as always.
Walking around heaven with 2 crowns, being married to Rachel. God gonna be like, here
you
go,
gotta
son.
get your own platform.
Here are 2 crowns.
Don't steal mine.
And they full of stars. Yes. Guys, thank you all.
The stars are for people that you brought to Christ. There's only one me.
Right.
Love you guys.
I'm getting the 2nd crown because of you.
You're still.
Be
I thought we were closing this out.
But you shot yours in.
See, you know what? Let's go back to the original. It's Jimmy. Jimmy's gonna get the last word. I said it was me. I said it was me, but it's Jimmy. It's Jimmy.
Well, look, guys,
round of applause.
Thank you all so much for joining us again.
Love you too, Angela.
Until next week. Peace.
Bye-bye, guys.